The Bliss Business Podcast, the show about empathy, connection, and consciousness in business. Today's episode is brought to you by Zero Company, your paid search, social media, and programmatic ad experts.
Welcome back to the Bliss Business Podcast, where we explore how to build love into scalable systems. I'm Steven Sketch here again with Mike Liskey and Tulio Saragusa. Hey, guys.
Hey, Steven. Good to see you again.
Good to be back.
Seeing you. Mike, what are we talking about today, Mike?
Yep, exactly. So our big question for today is, why do people evangelize some brands and then completely ignore others?
Yep. So most marketing is focused on getting customers, but the best brands don't just get customers, they create evangelists. They build something people love so much they feel compelled to share, to talk about it, and to promote it without being asked.
Yeah, and this isn't just luck that they happen to do this, right? It's not about having necessarily just the better product or because they're spending more on advertising. It's really about understanding human psychology, emotional connection, and the power of storytelling.
Yeah, and today we're going to break that down a little bit. Why people share, how great brands create movements, and what you can do to make your customers your biggest advocates.
And so here's a little teaser to get this started. When people evangelize a brand, it's not about the features and benefits. It's because that brand reflects something they believe in. It becomes part of their own identity. That's when you've moved beyond marketing. That's when you're in the realm of meaning. So that's the key thing that we want to discuss.
And for example, if you yourself have asked the question, or you're wondering, like, why isn't my marketing working like that, right? Stick around because that's exactly what we're going to talk about on this show. And we're going to highlight what the missing piece is.
Yeah. So let's start with this. So why do people talk about brands at all? I mean, what makes someone take the time out of the day to tell a friend, hey, you have to try this? I'm not just talking about the word of mouth that is like, oh, these guys did a good job on my repair or my installation, right? We're talking about how we go beyond satisfied customers to actual evangelists of your company.
Yeah, exactly, Steven. So it comes down to meaning and connection, right? People sharing things that align, number one, with their values, that excites them, and that make them feel like they're part of something a lot bigger.
Yeah, and I want to repeat that again, like meaning and connection. So, when we recommend something coming from this place, we're not just saying this product is great. We're saying this speaks to me. It reflects something important to me, whether it's, quality or innovation or sustainability, compassion, or even a shared mission. You want to focus on that meaning and connection.
I've been thinking about people that I even like when I make a recommendation, like as we're talking about this, I'm like, I never make the recommendation about the outcome. Like I have a trusted mechanic that I work with sometimes, who's actually my neighbor. And on the Facebook group for the neighborhood, sometimes when someone will ask me, is there a good, reliable, trustworthy mechanic? And I never say, oh yeah, go to James. He's a great mechanic. He knows how to do this, that, and the other. I always say, James is your guy. He's trustworthy and fair, right? So it's the experience that I'm evangelizing about him, that he's trustworthy and fair and he's reliable. It's not that he's a great mechanic, because he is. I never talk about, oh, he did this and he did. It's more like the experience. And that's, if we all really dig in and identify when we evangelize a brand, it's always some experience, something that matters to us. To me, it matters to have people that are trustworthy and reliable in my life. It's something I value. Integrity is a big, a sort of term of mine. So every one of us will have it different. But I just remember as we're talking about this, like, yeah, it's never about the features. It's about the feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. That connection, that feeling creates that connection and puts meaning behind it. So, that's why, people don't, just buy brands when they get, something right. They end up really adopting that brand. It becomes part of who that person is, right? They wear them, they talk about them, they'll even defend them. That's why, some probably will say, I'm a Mac person, or Patagonia, that's what the brand that I wear, or even specific, like I will never, drink this, plain grocery store coffee, but, I have coffee from this particular store.
Yeah, and this is where most businesses get it wrong. They think like if just having a great product, people will share it, and if you're lucky, something will go viral. But that's not how it works. I remember just sitting in business meetings, and like you said too, they were like, we're talking about features and benefits, trying to get a feel for the marketing here. But the light bulb just didn't go off until we started talking about the meaning behind the product. And forget those features and benefits. But that's when we kind of really had the great ideas coming out of that brainstorm session. So it's people don't share products, they share feelings, values, and experiences. And that's what you kind of have to understand here.
Yeah, it's the famous quote attributed to Maya Angelou, right? People aren't going to remember what you said or what you did, but how you made them feel. So if your brand isn't creating that emotional connection, or if it isn't aligning at a deeper purpose and resonating, people, they won't feel compelled to really talk about it, right? They might like the product, but they're not going to advocate, for it. They're not going to go to bat for you. And that's really the difference between a customer and an evangelist.
So true.
So why satisfied customers just aren't enough, right? So here's the mistake that a lot of organizations are doing, right? Brands are making this repeatedly. They think of their customers as just being satisfied, right? They'll stay loyal if they're satisfied, but really the satisfaction isn't enough.
Yeah, let's put it this way. Like, satisfied customers leave when they find like a cheaper or more convenient option. Emotionally connected customers stay. We've all done this in our lives somewhere, right? Where we're just not going to give up that one place or that one product because of this.
Exactly. And the research, we'll mention it again. We've said this before, right? The research on these brands that create an emotional connection, they see a 306% lifetime higher value per their customer compared to the other products and other companies that just don't connect that way.
Yeah, that's because I think underneath it all, people, they want to belong. They don't just want to buy something. They want to be a part of something. They want to feel aligned with a mission, a vision, or a belief system that goes just beyond the product itself, right? And that's really where you're making these connections. If you're just focusing on just the product or the benefits, like we said, and not focusing on how it makes someone feel, you're leaving a lot at the table there.
Yeah, for sure. And we've shared real life examples of companies that are doing this. We'll share a few other ones, with you. I mean, there is a real reason why you don't have Apple users switching over to Android, right? Even if maybe the specs are better, the cameras are better with some of these Android phones, that Apple product is associated with that individual's brand. And even think of Harley Davidson, these riders will tattoo the logo onto their skin, right? That's why some of those customers, they don't just buy these products, right? They defend the brands. They'll even argue online for one being better over the other.
I can attest. Once you ride a Harley, you can't go back to anything else. It's a whole different feeling. You can't even understand why it's a feeling, and that's the key thing. CMOs need to shift from being marketers to being architects of categories, category architects. That's really the how you create this sort of purposeful way and community, because you're architecting for a community, and it's not going to serve everybody. So I think it requires tremendous discipline to make this effective.
Yeah, these brands you're getting a tattoo on, they don't just sell a product; they're selling belonging. Right? They make customers feel like they're part of something bigger.
So creating those customers, right, that are going to evangelize for your brand, that's a big question. So how do you build this level of loyalty? It comes in three things. And we've mentioned them, before, but we want to highlight them so everyone can remember. It's purpose. Second, it's emotion. And then third, it's that experience.
So let's go over that, like that purpose first. So people don't follow brands, they follow beliefs. So if you stand for something bigger than just selling, you create alignment with people who share those values.
Yeah, precisely. And then with the second one, when it comes to the emotion, right, your brand really needs to develop that feeling within. It's not just, this product on the shelf. What's going to make them go to that store, go to that shelf and really want it? People don't remember, again, like we said with the famous Maya Angelou quote, what you said, they're going to remember how you made them feel. And that's why emotional connection is more powerful than features or price, particularly in today's markets.
Yeah. And then the third one you mentioned there was experience. So there's, I think, 17 consumption emotions when you're experiencing something. And people share things like what surprises them, what delights them, right? They don't talk about the ordinary. They talk about the unexpected. So if you create moments that feel personal, feel special and meaningful, your customers are going to spread the word for you.
Yeah, for sure. And that's why brands like Disney, Southwest Airlines, I even remember recently on a Las Vegas trip with my two daughters having to go to the Glossier store, right? They've built these cult-like followings where people have to go to these stores. And like you said earlier, they really need to be engineered. We need to engineer these experiences that make people feel like they're belonging to something.
And some people think it's like, wow, how did they do that? It's like a mystery. It's not a mystery. It's a mind set shift. When you're designing your customer journey around shared values, around emotional triggers, and moments of belonging, you're no longer marketing. You're mentoring your audience into a deeper relationship with you. You're architecting a community. And that requires intention. It's very intentional. It's designed with intention. So it can be done.
Yeah, in fact, Tulio, your point just reminded me of a quote I really love from Raj Sisodia, who is one of the founders of the conscious capitalism movement. And he just made the point that, these organizations that are failing today, they want sales overnight and brand over time. And he just makes the point that it's got to be the opposite in reality.
Yeah, I like that, mentoring your audience into a deeper relationship. I mean, the shift here is it's from marketing that persuades, is what we're used to doing, to marketing that people participate in. And when you get that right, your customers, they don't just buy from you, they fight for you, they evangelize for you. So the big question here is, are you building a company or brand that people feel compelled to share, or are you just selling a product or service?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this episode, and if you're ready to really move beyond transactions, start creating real emotional connections, we're going to be hosting a workshop that'll be coming up in a few weeks. We'll really start to break this down and get into it step by step.
Yep. So we'll show you how to define your higher purpose, build a brand that resonates emotionally, and create marketing that turns customers into evangelists. You will say wow more than once during this process.
I believe you will. Yes. So now's the time to sign up. Go to our URL. It's aicmo.io/workshop. Again, that's aicmo.io/workshop, and learn how really movements are built, right? The best brands, they just don't sell, they inspire.
And the thing is that the brands that win tomorrow will be the ones that build those communities today. So don't waste time. Get on this right away. You're not just creating customers, you're curating belonging. I'm going to repeat that. What is really the purpose of marketing? It's curating belonging. And that's what turns good businesses into movements.
Yep. Thanks, guys. And thanks to our audience for joining us today. If this resonated with you, share this episode with a leader who needs to hear it. Until next time, keep building love into scalable systems.
See you soon.